All right. Well, good Monday afternoon to all of you. Owen, Fritz here in the Bell Park Weather Network, Ohio News and Weather Center. We have some storms firing up along the I-70 corridor here down near Dayton and between Dayton and Cincinnati that we're keeping an eye on. And we also have a chance for some severe weather as we head into the overnight hours for most of us up in the northwest Ohio area. So we're keeping an eye on those and tracking that type of weather here today as well. So I wanted to come live quickly and tell you a little bit about some of the weather that we're expecting right now as it kind of creeps up along the I-70 corridor and southward. For those of us in southern Ohio, I wanted to come on live and kind of give you an update. We got some scattered showers and some storms starting to pop up, and it's important we just kind of come live and show you what's going on and kind of show you what's going to happen and what's starting to play out for the evening hours. We're getting a little bit better track in the evening and overnight hours and what potentially could happen. So let's start off with this severe thunderstorm warning currently that's in progress down here. And let's go down to our friends and let's go ahead and zoom in here. Let's go down to just north of Cincinnati here. We're going to be down in Montgomery, the southern tip of Montgomery County, and portions of Warren County, Butler County, excuse me. So this severe thunderstorm right here, looks like we have a 3/4 size inch hail on this. This goes until 4 o'clock, so kind of a slow mover. It was issued about 20 minutes ago or so. It goes till 4 o'clock. And max wind gusts of 50 miles an hour. Wouldn't be surprised to see with this some embedded hail as this moves off to the south and to the east. Let's go ahead and put that and roll up the track here for you. Give me 1 second while we load it in. And you'll start to see the track on this moving south and east. With this whole line here that's starting to fire up. Now, with that being said, a lot of these along this line could become a little bit cranky this afternoon, and they could be approaching severe limits, so it's a good idea to make sure you have a way to receive warnings. So make sure you do have that as well, and obviously one of those ways is to download the Ohio News and Weather app in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. You can get that free of charge. We keep that there for you. And we want you to make sure that you utilize that. It has warning features and even projected radar. You can see almost, I think it's 12 to 24 hours out. I think it's at least 12 that you can see out. I'm not sure how I have it set up on my phone. But it gives you a pretty good handle on what's going to be potentially coming into the area or where your location is, excuse me. So this is the current radar right now. We do have some other storms that are a little bit heavier on the stronger side in Greene County, right up here to the northeast of that, right along the I-35, State Route 35 and State Route 68, right near Xenia. We are watching some of these storms as well. Now, with that, we can flip over here, and I'll show you the velocity right now. So everything seems to be behaving right now, more of a linear threat, not a lot of rotation going on at all with these. So it's going to be some heavy downpours and some wind gusts is really the main concern here throughout the afternoon. Now, tonight, there's a lot of words being thrown out about tonight. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about next here for just a second. We had a lot of storms come through this southern portion of the area yesterday, and they're still kind of recovering here from some power outages. So from our friends over at poweroutages.us, you can kind of see the Ohio map. We're still seeing down here in Vinton County a good number of people out, along with Pike and Fayette County, Ross County, etc. So right in that area, still a good number of people that are without power, but they're coming back online as of right now. They're getting there, I should say. But let's talk a little bit about tonight. So tonight's kind of one of those things where everybody you're hearing some fancy words being thrown out, and I don't want to overhype the situation whatsoever because I think it's important that we give it to you straight. I do think that not everybody gets in on the severe action tonight. I think it's some of those things that we're going to have to kind of wait and see what happens tonight. Here's the Storm Prediction Center and the outlook, and I'll flip it back over to the live radar side so you can see that as well. Here's kind of what we're looking at for a categorical outlook for tonight. So pretty much all of our coverage area is under some sort of risk, and we have the enhanced risk area, which covers basically northern Indiana into extreme northwest Ohio. Then we move out into that slight risk category in the yellow, and then the marginal risk. So we kind of got a different level here. We got level 3, then 2, then 1. And this will make sense in a minute when I put on the projected radar. When we show that to you, you'll see why, because eventually, as it moves into Ohio, kind of like it did last night, it will lose some steam into the overnight hours. So we're not all of us are going to get on that more organized severe threat. So let's zoom out a little bit further, and I also want to bring in some of the categorical outlooks here for you as far as I want to show you the actual map of showing you the tornado map, tornado predictor, that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and flip that over to the probability of tornadoes really concentrated in the overnight hours. We're talking around our area past, depending on where you're at, okay? Northern Indiana, we're going to be seeing it past in our coverage area, northern Indiana, right about here. We're talking around 10 o'clock. Okay, the timing on that is still about 10 o'clock into the overnight hours. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. So a lot of people are saying, when's it going to happen? Well, it's going to be an overnight event. So you need to make sure that you have a way to receive warnings overnight. So what we're looking at here, what you can see is this is that risk of tornadoes. So they have kind of introduced a couple of different risks that are somewhat important. This area here in brown, I'll switch it over, move it over here. This is considered a 5% risk for tornadoes tonight, which is pretty good for the Storm Prediction Center. That's something we don't see that often. And then on this outer boundary, this is the 2% risk area for tornadoes in the overnight hours tonight. Again, so we are expecting with some of these type of storms that we're going to show you here in a minute, the way the projected radar is showing you and the model data is showing you, as this line comes through, you have the potential to see some tornadoes, especially across northern Indiana in our coverage area right here in northern Indiana. And then a 2% risk as it moves towards Ohio. And eventually, as it's moving towards Ohio, it will start to diminish. That's what we're looking at here. But we do have to continue to look at that along with some wind and some hail threats as well. Let's flip it over to the wind category for 1 second. The wind category looks a little bit different. This is a 30% chance of some severe wind, and we even have a hatched area now, which means greater probability from the Storm Prediction Center. So they're expecting some pretty decent winds with this tonight, and 15% on the outer band here. So 15% from any given point of 25 miles. We're expecting some decent bands here. As far as watches right now, no, you're not under any tornado watch at all. There's no tornado watches that have been issued at this point. And then finally, the hail risk is very minimal as far as our area goes. They got that pretty much out of our coverage area for the most part. But when we look at the categorical outlook for the overnight hours, this is kind of what we're looking like here in day 1. And even if I flip it over to day 2, eventually it moves off, and you can kind of see that line moves through overnight, dies down, and it will pick up some steam once again as we head into the daylight hours tomorrow for our friends down in the Mid-Ohio Valley. So this is for day 2. This is tomorrow. This is looking likely here for our friends in the Mid-Ohio Valley. You are under slight risk for some severe weather tomorrow. So let's put this into play. Let's kind of look at it in motion and kind of show you what's going on. I'll flip over to another product here from Weather Bell, and we'll kind of stop the map here for you. Let me flip it back over so you can see it. So here's the HRRR model. This is kind of showing you coming into our area, and I'll back this up. The current time on this stamp is 7 Zulu, so this would be 3 in the morning right now. So this is approaching northwest Ohio. If I back this up to about 2, you can kind of see it gets really heavy there. So as far as precipitation goes, we're just kind of looking at the composite reflectivity projection here, and you can see it's fairly strong as it moves across northern Ohio. This is 2 in the morning. I'll back it up to 1 in the morning, and even midnight. You can see that outer band there start to fire up. So this is the concern, and this is why those category outlooks are lining up the way they are, because, again, we're getting ready to go into, here's 2 o'clock in the morning, here's 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's starting to die down because we're starting to lose some of that momentum and energy. You can see here it's really starting to die off as we head into, the early morning hours. We're at 9 Zulu currently in the early morning hours. So we're at 5 in the morning, here's 6, and it's starting to die down. Now, as we get through the day tomorrow, as we continue on here, you're going to start to see eventually a line start to fire up for our friends down in the Mid-Ohio Valley. It's starting to get some of that instability, and we could see again tomorrow evening, I should say, for our friends over in the Mid-Ohio Valley, the potential for some storms as well. So we want to keep an eye on that. We're looking at all sorts of parameters tonight. I don't want to say that everybody's in on it because they're not. And I'll look at something else we look at called the Helicity Index, and it usually gives us a pretty good indication for tornadoes. Got some good, juicy atmospheric conditions tonight, especially in northern Indiana. So if you're in that coverage area, and maybe extreme northwest Ohio. But I'm going to say once again, you're pretty much not all going to get in on some of that action tonight. So pretty much northwest Ohio points down just above Dayton. And I'll flip back over to the category outlook. You're not going to see a whole lot of that. So as far as severe weather in the overnight hours, yes, you could see some, and some of those storms that I just showed you on that projected radar could be a little bit cranky. But again, you're not going to see this widespread thing. Northern Indiana, yes, you got a great shot for it. In northwest Ohio, you got a great shot for it. But you're not going to see this big widespread type of thing tonight with everybody's going to get on the action. I do think that this could be trimmed back even further on the next update from the Storm Prediction Center. We shall see. But I don't think, again, everybody's going to get in on that action. Let's go ahead and put the model on this program for you so you can see. Let's go ahead and cue it up here, or not. Maybe it won't work. There we go. Here's some of that model data, and again, let's back this up to current time. So let's go ahead and back this up to 4 o'clock. So this is current time, and let me go pull I'll leave it on, actually. Kind of look at the projected radar and the category outlook. I'll leave it on. Let's move this out. So this is the area that everybody seems to be talking about right now. Over here in Illinois, starting to fire up. And again, we're looking at projected radar for tonight at 7 o'clock, starting to fire up over the Iowa, state of Illinois here, and a part of Wisconsin. And it's we start to get a little closer. This is more concerning for those folks over in Illinois. Definitely be concerned for those folks. And it keeps pushing. It looks very nasty on projected radar. And that's why that enhanced risk area from the Storm Prediction Center is there. And we keep it moving. And as it's approaching northern Indiana, it looks fairly nasty still. Again, we're at 10 o'clock tonight. And then as we get into the 11 o'clock hour, approaching some of our counties, some outliers ahead of this. Not sure I'm buying into that 100%. But you can kind of see that leading edge starting to approach our coverage area here in northern Indiana at 11 o'clock. Here's midnight, still a pretty good line. And then eventually as we get into 1 in the morning, still a very good strong line. 2 in the morning, starting to traipse down and starts to eventually fade out here. Here's 3 a.m. You could see it's losing its luster quite a bit. So, and it makes sense. Right along that outlook boundary, you could see where the Storm Prediction Center has the enhanced, and you kind of see they're starting to diminish as they head into the overnight hours for most of us. You're going to see some rain overnight tonight, and some of these could get a little bit cranky, but as far as that widespread severe thing, you're not really going to see that as it starts to die down towards daybreak. So that's kind of what we're looking at here for the overnight hours, and so I, again, don't want to overhype that situation for you. I think some of the stuff we're seeing towards Chicago and that, yeah, it makes sense and everything, but I just don't, for our area, I don't want people to get overly excited, overly zealous. Yes, have a way to receive warnings. That's important for all of us, but again, don't need to overhype that situation. Just make sure you have a way to receive warnings. I don't think it's going to be a huge widespread outbreak for our area, but we could see some strong winds moving forward here. So, we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning on that one that we were talking about. Let's go ahead and zoom back down in here to that one we were looking at. This is the current radar. So those folks down here, we're going to zoom in just outside of Columbus here over Xenia. This has now been warned. They just issued this here about a minute ago. This goes until 4:30. A very slow moving type storm. And this one, again, probably has some hail embedded with this one here over the town of Greene. So right now we have a severe thunderstorm warning for this one for south central Clark County and Greene County until 4:30. They're going quarter-size hail and 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts with that one as well. So let's take a look here, zoom in on this one. Wouldn't be surprised on some of these that you're seeing some pretty decent hail, especially again over that Xenia and Green area. I wouldn't be surprised at all that you're seeing some decent downpours and some quarter size hail. I would say makes sense. So bottom line on this, I'll zoom out. So anybody across the kind of the 70 corridor in southern, you could see a chance here this afternoon, and even north of there a little bit, you could see a chance of some of these storms. It's trying to create a little bit of a line here. It's got just enough instability here down in the southern portion. We could see some more of these storms start to fire up as it moves off towards the east, but not expecting a big widespread event. The big category outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, again, is for those overnight hours. So with that being said, I just wanted to come live and let you know we continue to monitor the situation as far as the overnight, and we continue to monitor the storms as they're going on right now. If one of these storms were to go tornadic, we'll be definitely coming back live with you. We're here, we're kind of waiting and watching with that. But I did want to come on and kind of put your mind at ease a little bit for some of this stuff in the overnight hours. There's a lot of words being thrown out there, and I'm not going to say those words, but kind of some scary words and things. And very potentially, it could happen across the state of Illinois and even portions of northern Indiana. But as it gets into the overnight hours for Ohio, that line is going to continually die down right along the category outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center. So it makes sense on what's going to happen. But overnight tonight, you potentially could see a couple storms get a little bit cranky. Wind is going to be the main threat, especially across Ohio. If you're northern Indiana, you have a little bit of greater chance of some tornadoes. But across Ohio tonight, we're going to see pretty much a big threat of wind being the main thing here in the overnight hours. So make sure that you have a way to receive warnings in the overnight hours. Have a weather radio, your app, whatever. We have our own app you can download. Make sure you can download that in the Play Store or the Google App Store. Or, hey, there is other apps out there. The FEMA Red Cross app works very well. I can't say that it doesn't. I have that one on my phone as well. So they also work very, very well. We're not the only app out there, but there is definitely choices for you to get alerted. As long as you get alerted, that's what counts. Also, make sure, just in the overnight hours, especially if you're going into northern Indiana, if you're watching from over there, make sure you know where to go during a tornado, and be prepared for nighttime tornadoes as well. You want to make sure that you're ready to go as you head into the overnight hours. And also, finally, make sure that you charge your devices before you go to bed. Get those charged, get those topped off, just in case there's some power outages throughout the overnight hours. So one more quick look here at the radar, and we're going to wrap it up. So kind of looking at this line starting to fire up here down towards the southwest portion of Ohio, just outside of Dayton. Kind of zooming in here. Right now, this is going to be a wind threat. Winds up to 60 miles an hour is what they're calling for from the National Weather Service, and a quarter-size hail with this one as well. So we could see some cranky storms here. These are more of your generalized garden variety type thunderstorms. A lot of areas in Ohio today, it is very, very warm, 90s in some spots right now. So we're starting to see some of these garden variety type thunderstorms fire up along some of this instability that we're having here across southern Ohio. And even in northern Ohio, you could see a couple pop-up showers and some storms throughout the rest of the day. So with that being said, wrapping this one up, and we'll continue to monitor. We'll come back live as we need to. Appreciate you putting your trust in us with Ohio News and Weather and the Bell Park Weather Network. Again, we'll continue to come back live as needed throughout the rest of the evening